Hello everybody and welcome to DDNet After Dark, a Friday night stream where we play things that are a little bit more adult, I guess, a little bit darker, a little bit more sinister sometimes, or a little bit more fan-servicey. This week we are playing a horror game. I think it came out about 2 weeks ago or a week ago on the Nintendo Switch, and I've got a review going up on I've got a review actually. It's already up on digitallydownloaded.net. You can check that out. I gave it a solid 3.5 out of 5 stars. It's a decent little horror game, this one. The Coma 2. It was developed by 4 people actually. It was two Koreans and maybe 2 people in the US, but a small team of 4 people. Very indie game, but it has some excellent production values, some very good art. It tells an interesting little story, and it's generally an interesting little game. So I figured that this one would be a fun one to play. We can also talk a bit about stalker horror, which is my favorite subgenre of the horror genre, and we can have a scare or two along the way. So we'll give people a moment or two to jump on if they want to say hello and watch, and then we'll get stuck into it. And hello Diddy Ram, welcome to the stream. Great to have you on, as always. You did read my review. Excellent, I'm glad somebody did. I never know how many people actually read my stuff. Yeah, so hopefully you'll get a sense of what I was talking about from the review through this stream over the next hour or so of play, and I don't know, hopefully I give you an excuse to give it a go, because I do think that this one's quite decent, even though I only gave it 3.5 out of 5 only. I gave it a solid 3.5 out of 5. I think it's a quality game. I think it is worth talking about. I certainly think it's worth playing, and it would be good to see more stalker horrors back, because that genre's died away quite a bit. But yeah, Haunting Ground is one of my favourite horror games of all time. I really love Haunting Grounds. I also was a big fan of Clock Tower 3, which came out about a year before Haunting Grounds. There was a time where Capcom really got invested in this genre and made a few very similar themed games. Clock Tower 3, Haunting Grounds, and there was one other one, Rule of Rose, I think, is a stalker horror. There was also Gregory Horror Show, which is a more quirky, surrealistic kind of thing than straight-out horror, but it was also a stalker horror game of sorts. So Capcom was certainly invested in the genre, made some pretty interesting games, and since then it's kind of died away. There was a couple of good ones. There was Amnesia has come out in recent years, that's quite decent. There's some stalker elements in some other games like Lust for Darkness. That's got a stalker element or two in it. But it is a genre that... and there was one that I really love called Creeping Terror, which you can get on PC and 3DS. But otherwise the genre is largely faded away, at least for now. So the Coma 2 has been a nice throwback in that sense for me as well. Okay, so we will jump on and get started. I think in just 1 minute I'll throw out one more tweet to say, hey, join us peoples. And yeah. Yes, so you'll actually get a sense from that with the Coma 2, actually, straight away. There is certainly those themes at play. So the original Coma was a game that was about really looking at the way that Korean school systems put obscene amounts of pressure on students. That's a theme in the Coma 2, but in the Coma 1 you played as a male protagonist, so it didn't really bother with the sexual side of the stalker horror genre. This game does engage with that as well, so it's neat. That's a good theme. I do like to study that. Alright, let's jump into it. Start. So we'll go right from the start because I finished the game, so I cleared away all the save files. and we'll get right into it. It doesn't take long for this game to get going because it is indie. There's a little bit of a cutscene at the start, which is nicely produced. It's very comic book style, but it doesn't take long to get straight into the action proper. I mean, there are some that no games present the male protagonist's sexual desires as horror. There are some, but you do have to dig, and I can't think of any off the top of my head. I do distinctly remember having played some. I mean, you can talk about there's some elements of that actually in the Silent Hill series, especially the ones that have the male protagonists. There are elements of that in there, but you are right that it is generally much more the women, female characters that have to deal with the sexual side of horror as such. Hello, Nook Gaming. Welcome to the stream. I love that emoticon. I don't know how you guys do the emoticons on the threads, but they always cheer me up. YouTube has some nice ones. And given all the crap that's been going on Twitch the last couple of weeks, I'm quite glad that I'm doing my streaming over YouTube. Not that YouTube's a great platform by any means, but at least I have the moral superiority high ground for the last couple of days since Twitch really has gone down the gurgler. Alright, let's go. Slot 1.
영웅은 정신을 잃고 지금까지 깨어나지 못했고 그리고 그때부터 영화가 자꾸만 꿈을 꾸며 날 괴롭게 한다. 분명히 앞에 서있는데 결국 꿈을 꾸는 것 같다. 세상엔 꼭 함께해야만 하는 것들이 있어. 하지만 넌 어디로 가버린 거니? 영웅은 정신을 잃은 와중에도 이걸 쥐고 있었어. 도대체 누구지? 왠지 어디서 본것 같아.
And that was the introduction. So, like I said, it was nice and efficient and gets to the point nice and quickly. You play as that girl. Her name's Mina. Lovely name. She, her best friend found himself in a coma just a couple of weeks ago, which is obviously very distressing to her. And it's all very mysterious about how he ended up in that coma, other than the fact that she's got this little pendant, and it's a very eldritch pendant. I forgot to mention that this game has some pretty esoteric Lovecraftian elements as well, which we'll see soon enough, because every horror game seems to need to have those. But yeah, so she's got that going on as well. So she's got a lot going on in her life, and she ends up at school, and we're about to see just how sympathetic the school is to all the crap that she's going through right now. Well, are you really surprised? I mean, the Koreans do look back at that particular period of time with a certain sense of horror. I will say that this game doesn't get too topical about the date that it's set, but yes, you did notice that. I will say that this game doesn't get too topical about the date that it's set, but yes, you did notice that. So this is just telling you basically how to play the game, as always, tutorials and stuff. And we have control. As you can see, this is 2D rather than 3D movement. And we have control. As you can see, this is 2D rather than 3D movement. So there we go. There's a blood moon to look forward to, etc., etc. And we're just getting a sense of the school and stuff. Nothing too exciting at the moment. Actually, I should read that one out. That's a telling note. Starting this summer, we are relocating the students of 3F to the room right off the mid stairwell. The class will always also be redesignated 3-6 to better reflect the standard of excellence. F is not in our vocabulary. You know, high performance culture. The Koreans, they do put a lot of pressure on their kids at school. And then we meet Da-hyun, who is Mina's friend. Just setting up the school dynamics here. And of course, Mina being quite pretty, she has to deal with being the subject of the affections of the boys in her class and school. Yeah, it's an interesting art style. I quite like it. It makes more sense once the horror gets going. In the kind of the normal school life as the game is presenting at the moment, the mundane side of things, it's a little bit perhaps overblown with the big heads and stuff, but yeah, it makes more sense once all the horror kicks in and the unreal situations start cropping up, and we'll see that soon enough. Anyway, Mina is she's popular with this baseball dude who's not very intelligent. And she's not interested at all. Okay, so after that, now our friend who is totally annoying because she talks like a teenager, I guess. That makes sense, but it's still annoying, totally. We have to go to a cafeteria and grab some food, some snacks, which we can see via the map. There's the map. So we need to go down one flight of stairs to get to the cafeteria. And we can keep chatting to all these people if we want to. Why are you following me? You're creeping me out. Well, there you go. Lots of creepy people at this school. Pretty nice cafeteria, though, if you ask me.
예?
Pretty nice cafeteria, though. Look at that. They have lounges and everything in the cafeteria. I don't know. I mean, I went to school in Australia and we certainly didn't have this kind of cafe-style cafeteria. We had a literal wall in the hole in the wall where they would dispense sandwiches if you ordered them in the morning, and that was what passed for food. Most people in my school just brought their own lunches. I don't know if things have changed. It's been that long since I was at school, but yeah, this is a much cooler cafeteria. Anyhow, we got a vending machine. We need to buy a snack bar. You just didn't eat lunch, okay. Well, that works as well. So we can use money to buy snacks, of course. Now, what did we have to buy? Our friend wanted a Owana bar. So there we go. Cost us 1,000. I don't know what. I actually can't think off the top of my head what the Korean money is, which is very bad of me. I keep wanting to say yen, but obviously it's not yen. This is not Japan. Anyway, let's just move on. Oops. So the baseball boy is on his way. See, now with that build, that guy would actually be a rugby player in Australia. No question about it. He would not be a baseballer. I mean, not that we played baseball much in Australia. But he wouldn't be a cricketer either. He'd be absolutely recruited into the rugby team. Look at the size of that chest. A Ghana chocolate bar. Oh, yeah. Actually, I've had one of those. They're good stuff. Anyway, this guy's an absolute jerk. We're skipping past the conversation as quickly as we can, but we don't like him straight away. And not just because he likes an inferior sport. Sorry, all baseball fans out there, but it is not cricket. He has the fascist haircut. I think he's meant to look like every other baseball dude. I think that's the point, isn't it? Hey David, welcome to the stream. This might be the first stream that you've joined of ours. I think, mine. It's good to have you on. Hey David, welcome to the stream. This might be the first stream that you've joined of ours. I think, mine. It's good to have you on.
Yeah.
So just giving you a heads up, there is a little bit of delay when you say you type something in before I respond. So apologies in advance for that. There seems to be some lag issues with uploading and streaming and stuff. Probably the Australian internet connection's been that bad, but I do see everything and respond to it as I can. But yeah, it really is good to have you on, so glad you can join us. So on top of being a bit of a sleazy dude with a bad haircut, this baseball dude's also a bit of a bully punk. So on top of being a bit of a sleazy dude with a bad haircut, this baseball dude's also a bit of a bully punk. You're famous. You're famous. Yeah, also not a big fan of the friend actually selling out a friend when she's hiding from punk baseball dude, to be honest. Really not a fan of this Hyun. Okay, so now we're going to go back to class. Yeah, the animation quality of this thing is quite good. I mean, in general, the presentation of this game is really, really high quality. A very big fan of the presentation of it. And you'll see just how messed up it looks soon enough as well when it gets into the horror part. Well, punching well above their weight for a team of 4 developers, that's for sure. I think you'll find that applies to pretty much the entire culture, Diddy. It's that is I think this is representative of school life. Now, as we can see, there are 2 teachers here, and I don't know why, but this dude's totally Aussie. The blonde dude, he's totally the Aussie dude. In fact, I think he might actually be from Australia, I can't remember. So, just the conversation that's going on there. Mina is worried about her test score. Miss Song, the teacher here, is going to give out her test score and wants to talk to her about it, and then just casually throws in later a question about how her best friend's going. So, yeah, this is pretty explicit, I guess, commentary on where the priorities lie with the schooling system in Korea. Just like the first Coma. The whole thing's a broad criticism of the school system and the pressure it puts on students. So this is a pretty key conversation for that. Chin up. Yep. Very sympathetic attitude going on here. Thanks for dropping in, and hopefully we can do another stream at a time that suits David. It's good to have you on. Thanks for dropping in, and hopefully we can do another stream at a time that suits David. It's good to have you on. Okay, so I have to go back and take our seat now. This one. He'll be so the blonde dude is the English teacher, of course. And then disappears off. So 10 p.m. class ends. It's still going on at 10 o'clock at night, and that's an early finish for them. So, you know, if an Australian school were to keep classes back until 10 p.m, things would be said. I can assure you of that. And she only got a B+ for her efforts.
일단 집에 가야겠다. 벌써 다 간 건가? 저건
Yeah, I'm certainly not suggesting the Australian school system is a good one. But if they were to make a video game about the Australian school system, the one thing they would not be doing is having classes back at 10 p.m. at night and suggesting that a B plus is not a high enough score. Well, the expectations are slightly different with the Australian school system, and the issues that it has is slightly different. But certainly there. Oh, bullied kids there still. He's still hanging around.
저긴 창고인데? 잠겨있지 않았나? 왜 했길래 그러는 거지?
Okay, so that was the normal setup, and now, as you saw, it was the red moon, the blood moon, and this is where the horror starts. So this is where things start to get a little bit more interesting, or at least as far as the horror games goes. As you can see, it's now dark. And already things are a little bit more creepy. And that's the save points. So just like the horror games of yesteryear, this one you can only save at certain points. You need to find one of those books. And in that book is written some kind of weird ritual that Mina's reading about. The Great Gnashing, the Umbran Gates, Vicious Sister. It's all very Lovecraftian. And I would imagine I feel pretty sick about it as well, to be honest. Oh, and she's fallen asleep. You normies are so predictable. I just love how these portraits, which are unknown, so they're all meant to be very mysterious. But it's quite obvious who the one on the right is right now. I mean, that is quite obvious. we all know exactly who that is. Okay, and then Mina wakes up again, so... Possibly not the kind of room you actually want to pass out in. Lovecraft's such a common motif and theme for horror game designers. Just about everyone wants to try to be a Lovecraftian horror director. Not many people succeed. But, yeah. Thankfully, the Lovecraftian elements are not too explicit in this one. They're there, but they're just kind of background stuff. It's more just creating that sense of unease when the game really wants to delve into other things instead. So, as you can see, now things are truly creepy. And we can save here, which we are going to do, of course. Because otherwise... It's very easy to die in horror games, and then you don't want to have to go back too far. But yes, you got to find the safe spots first. Whoa! And there we go. So that's one enemy that we introduced to straight away, the falling body. So you can see them on the roof, and they appear. They do appear at a kind of at random, and if they do, you've got to dodge out of their way or just avoid being hit by them, because otherwise they'll do damage. They're not the most threatening enemy that you'll come across, because they're stationary and pretty easy to dodge. So they're more just an annoyance than anything else. But if they do hit you, they do take some health out. Yes, indeed. If you a good horror game is as scary as real life. That's right. So Mina's got a dodge ability, which is that. She dodges out of the way. She can run, and other than that, she hasn't got too many tools at her disposal. Like because it is a stalker horror game, she can't really fight back, and really her job is just to try to survive. This one plays out a little bit like an adventure game rather than a action game. There are some moments where you need to run and stuff, but not too frequent. It's much more about the adventuring. So Eldritch Tentacles, I know where that's going. Some money. Let's pick up some loot. That's a good question. Why not simply locked? Can't get into there. Possibly because they're much more powerful. They have all the weapons. A little bit like the real world. So I mean, we need to try to escape, and unfortunately, door is locked. Now, the first Coma was actually based entirely in the one school, so it was just a single setting. This Coma has multiple locations instead, so it's much broader in scope. And yeah, it's pretty neat about just how broad the scope is for it. We probably won't get to see too much of it tonight, but yeah, there's a couple of settings in this one which are particularly effective. So we need to go out the west building, so we're going to go up to where the cafeteria is and escape that way, if we can. We shall convert the social science class to a technology and home economics lab. That is, well, that's pretty much what's happening in Australia with regards to the university degrees at the moment. It's a very poignant note to that one. So high students must learn to appreciate practical survival skills like engineering, sewing, cooking, and craft work. I mean, you can skip sewing, cooking, and craft work. The Australian school system isn't particularly interested in those, but engineering, that's a STEM course, that is. That's where all the interest is. Turn people into highly qualified office workers. Anyway, I should probably stop that. I'll talk about my issues with the Australian school system another time. Another locked door. Oops, can't go that way. STEM is terrible. To be fair, there's not much art left after that either. We're all kind of stuffed, we are. And just there, I just dodged the, the claw. See, I told you they weren't particularly threatening enemies. All these locked doors. So we're getting close to the cafeteria, I think. We'll get there this way. Yep. Oh, there's another enemy just there. But we don't have to deal with that. Okay, we're in the cafeteria. So we're about to meet the next enemy that we have to deal with. These kind of monsters that are lying on the ground. So we're about to meet the next enemy that we have to deal with. These kind of crawling shadows, they're called. If you get close to one of them, you also get a slash and you get injured. But you can dodge them. Oh, I pressed the wrong button, so I didn't dodge them. Silly me. So as you can see, I now have been injured and bleeding. So if I don't heal myself within a certain period of time, that health bar gets knocked off. So I only have 5 to start with. But I can use a bandage to prevent that from happening. So if I pull up my inventory and I use the bandage, the bleeding goes away and I no longer have to deal with that. Found some money. Save points. So as you can see, it's all pretty standard horror stuff at the moment. You've got a limited size inventory. You can only carry 4 things to start with. So you need to be careful about what you actually carry around. And unfortunately, this exit is also closed, as we're just about to find out. This is living and this is life. I like pretty much any type of horror. There aren't too many types of horror that I'm not a big fan of. The only thing that I'm not a huge fan of is the kind of the action horror video game stuff. Because for me, good horror is more about disempowerment, and the whole point is that it's not just about grotesque monsters, although that's certainly part of the horror. It's more about feeling like you're in a hopeless situation, which is why I'm so, like, stalker horror is my favorite type of horror. But yeah, action horror that gives you weapons to fight back, that's just kind of, you know, monster hunting, which isn't really my thing. Saying that, if it's not trying to be scary, if it's more just trying to be funny or whatever, like Schoolgirl Zombie Hunter for example, I'm fine with that. But yeah, otherwise I'm pretty much a fan of any horror. So I have to go back now and try to work out another way to get out of here. Not quite sure what to do at the moment. So the next solution is to try and get out via the underground parking lot. So we're going to go to the security office. And this time around, I'm going to dodge this ghosty thing. Oh, it's not there anymore anyway. So as you can see, pull up the map. The security office is down on 1st floor. And ultimately, I want to get out of the underground parking lot. So firstly, I need to find the way down. And this one will do. And unfortunately I can't go down there because of the tentacles. Always avoid the tentacles. Especially if you're playing as a girl. In one of these horror games, we all know how those go. And we go down here. Run past the biology lab, or do we go in? No, it's locked anyway. Can't get into the... Oh! There's an enemy above us. But I escaped. So, as anybody who's played enough horror games knows, forcing you to do a lot of backtracking and wandering around and trying to solve puzzles is all part of it. And we're about to find that out right now. So here's the other element. Backtracking usually sucks, but when it's done in the context of an atmospheric horror game, then I'm okay with it, especially when you've got the risk of having a monster or something jumping out and chasing you around. It increases the tension as you explore. I'm not a big fan of backtracking when there's just nothing to it, but with a good stalker horror game, there is definitely something to it. So hiding, that's another big element of stalker horror. When the monsters come, you need to be able to find somewhere to sneak in. Ooh. That's a bit ugly. I like how Mina finally clues in right now that this is kind of dangerous, this situation that she's in. It took her a while. But I guess real blood will certainly solidify that for you. Yeah, I don't know if the police is going to help you here, Mina. Somehow. Yes, mace will certainly come in handy, Mina. There's another hiding spot under the table. There's plenty of them around, and once the stalkers start showing up, you need to use them plenty often as well. But you may have noticed the name of him when she picked up his wallet. That will be familiar from the earlier cutscene if you play this. Okay, so need to head down the stairs to the underground parking lot, which is this way. And unfortunately, the door needs to be powered first. Well, what's real? I mean, for me, horror is more about the idea, which is why I'm not a big fan of just plain action and grotesque monsters. Horror is about the way it engages with the mind as well. And that's always real, simply because it's in your head. If you're thinking about it, it exists in some form, as a concept or whatever. So we need to now go into here. Another save point, better use that. And oh, that was my problem for not paying attention. the zombie got me. Not the zombie, the crawling thing. I'm good at noticing the monsters that drop down from the top, but the ground monsters always get me. I never pay attention. Always looking up, not down. Okay, so the generator. That was the point. Natural spring water, that's all very healthy. Some more mace. But I can only carry one can of that at a time, unfortunately. And a bandage, which we need to use right now. Rightio. So the next trick... As with most horror games, you can build out the story of the game itself by collecting pages and text and whatever, which have little backstories and explain what's really going on in the world, the lore and stuff. But for now, we're going to do this, and we'll have a little quick time event to play through. Very simple one, of course. Just need to press the arrows at the right time.
됐다. 작동하고 있어.
Well, I'm sure some people would prefer it. You always know to worry when there's heels that big. They're always a concern. Only a certain person could actually wear something like that.
거기 누구세요?
누구니? 어서 나와.
송 선생님? 아, 살았다. 저 혼자 학교에 남겨진 줄 알았어요.
귀염둥. 뭐 재미있는 걸 찾았나 보지? 아하하. 또 다른 불청객이 길을 잃었나 봐?
네?
그렇다면 크게 환영해주지 않을 수 없지. 그렇지?
So that's a monster, just in case that wasn't obvious. That is the stalker in this particular instance. And just for the first time, the game obviously helps you with the hiding. So she just ran past, and our goal now is to make it to the underground parking lot nice and quick.
제발요.
어서 타! 빨리!
이제 따돌린 것 같아요. 잠시만요.
안에 들어가서 숨어 있어. 난 저 녀석을 유인할게.
도대체 누구지?
And just like that, we have now escaped the school, and we have moved to the next location, which is the police office. And just like that, we have now escaped. Apparently, we're meant to feel safe here or something. But obviously, that's not going to happen. Save point. That guy again. There's definitely something up with Seho. Definitely. I'm not sure if we should be trusting him, but we do. Oh, there we go. Has everybody gone insane? Pretty much, Mina. You're the only one left. So, we're now at the school. And, yep, just as creepy. This is actually quite a nice game. It's obviously not a big production values AAA blockbuster or anything like that, but it's a nice little game. I do like this one. Not really a zombie apocalypse though. So we get a bit of backstory here. Yep, nothing going on. Some cash. Of course, the security cameras continue to operate even if there's no police around. You're still being watched. That's the point. It's the Panopticon. It's all Foucauldian. Need to find the keycard to get into the security door this time. Don't have a map yet. That's not going to help. But we do have mineral water. And a torn page. Lots of little things to pick up along the way here. But unfortunately, not the map that I was hoping for. That's okay. We're going to explore the police office now. Hiding spot. Good to know they're there. I like how in this game, chocolate bars only improve or only give you back 1 health, but spicy chips give you back 2. If you've ever had Korean spicy food, then you would know that spicy is kind of an understatement. Koreans absolutely love their brutally, painfully hot stuff, which is why I like Korean food so much. But yeah, when you see spicy chips in English, when they're talking about in a Korean context, just know that it's a bit of an understatement, and whatever you're imagining as spicy is is nothing compared to what it actually is. I love Korean food; it's so good. Unfortunately, I can't take those chips right now because my inventory is full. Hey, Silver, welcome to the channel. Mr. Driller is another good choice. If I find time at some stage, I'm going to review that as well. I love Mr. Driller. Nothing wrong with that choice. But yeah, this one, maybe add it to the wish list and keep an eye on it, because I think that this game, while it's not as my review said, while it's not the greatest game in the world, and it's not going to win awards, it's worth playing. Genuinely worth playing. Oh, monsters. Monster hands. Ha, missed me. Never trust a toilet in a horror movie or a game. Never trust them. They're always going to go wrong for you. In this case, they're just a couple of hiding spots, but... There we go. There we go. We found the map, which is good. This is a pretty big police office, really. No worries. Glad to be able to show you some of this game in action so you can get a feel for it. Oh. More Lovecraftian tentacles there. And we can't go up here, so we've got to go back. Whew. I actually dodged the monster this time. I feel good about that. So the police have a nice cafeteria too. It seems like every public facility in Korea has nice cafeterias. Not that I blame them. It'd be nice if more public facilities in Australia had such nice cafeterias. Can barely get a nice cafeteria in an art gallery and stuff in Australia. Okay. So nothing in the cafeteria right now. We should probably go to the chief's office, I reckon. Dodge that guy. Oh, can't get up there. Where do I need to go? You always know it's a safe room if there's a save spot. That's Horror Law 101. Speaking of such, there was a really funny moment where I think it was the remake of Resident Evil 3 where they actually messed up a little bit, well not messed up, but they changed things up a little bit where you weren't necessarily safe in the areas where there was the save rooms, and that people were losing their minds over that. I thought that was very clever. A good horror game or experience should always make you feel, should always disrupt you in some way, and changing the rule that you're safe in a room with a save spot is a good thing to do. An unpleasant odour reminiscent of rotten fish lingers in the air. Well, that's not a good sign in horror ever. We're about to meet another enemy. So this is now very Lovecraftian. It's these tentacle things that explode in poison gas. Possibly the easiest enemy of all to avoid. There we go. Once that poison gas disappears, you can just run on by. The one thing I'm not a big fan of in the Coma 2 is actually the frequency in which they throw enemies at you, because this game is not about enemies. The original Coma was much better in that respect, that you did have the stalker that you would constantly show up and you'd have to dodge. But in this one, the stalkers don't show up quite as often, but instead you've got all these mundane enemies to avoid, and it's not quite the same, but they are easy enough to ignore once you get going, and the story is certainly engaging enough that you don't feel like the presence of those enemies undermines the rest of the game in any way. Now, personally, no. That's an interesting question to ask if you're in. No, I'm not. I don't know that much about stalkers. I found there was one of the older stalker horror games, Clock Tower 3, fascinated me for a while, because actually all the serial killers in that game, and there was maybe 4 or 5 of them, they were all based on real life serial killers slash stalkers that did all kinds of horrible things to their victims, and that was all very interesting, but that's as close as I've come to researching the topic of these games, let's put it that way. Meeting room. So the police in South Korea used tasers as well against protesters. This game obviously was in development well before all of this stuff happened and actually released on the PC last year. So this is just unfortunate timing that this game came out where it's got police using tasers on protesters in the current context. But yeah, that reads a lot differently to how it would have if you played the game on PC a year ago. So, antidote, which we don't need right now, that cures poison if we get poisoned. So that key card will get us into the into that security room that we've been trying to get into. So we'll head back down there, or at least should do. Poison bubbles back. Just dodge past that. Easy as that to avoid. If it does hit you, you get a lot of pain, but very easy to avoid those ones. Security room. And we're just about to meet another major character. So, a person dressed up in a uniform, but of a different school. Yes, ACAB, absolutely. I do like her hair, this new girl. That shoulder-length wavy hair, if it's not twin tails, then that's my next preference for hair. It really is nice. So right away we get the sense that she knows a little bit better what's going on than Mina, or at least she's a little bit more composed and definitely more relaxed about the situation. So that's a red flag and a half. Not quite sure who she is right now, but she's not hostile, which is good. Exactly, don't ever doubt cute girls. It's a pretty good rule of thumb, especially for horror games. If they're pretty and if they're pretty and student age, they're probably harmless. So this introduces the whole Coma. This is the shadow realm connected to the waking world. It's very eldritch, very Lovecraftian style stuff, but point is that it is the dark alternative to the real world, and that's where the name of the game comes from. The concept is the Coma, the alternative universe. Also, I guess they're kind of implying the world within the mind, so it's a place where frustrations and stresses of real life are playing out in a not a safe environment, but it's a hostile environment, but all of those frustrations are made manifest. It's all very deep. And of course Mina asks, are you sure you didn't hit your head? She's so clueless. She's so cute. It's all very deep. And of course Mina asks, are you sure you didn't hit your head? She's so clueless. She's so cute. So we've been given another fetch quest that we're going to have to go off on. Now we need to find a high-ranking officer's keycard. And of course that's at the furthest point away from the security office that you can imagine. And we're getting a Nokia phone, which is excellent. We can play Snake. I'm probably saying things that people don't even know anymore. I don't know. Does anybody remember the old Nokia phones? I used to love them, especially Snake. Snake was great. Before we had switches and things to take on trains, if you didn't want to cart around a Game Boy, which didn't really work on trains because they weren't backlit, so you couldn't ever find the right lighting to play the thing. You needed a Nokia phone with Snake to make those train trips bearable. They call it a Shadow Telecom, but we all know it's a Nokia. Nah, no one reads books, dude. No one reads books. No one reads books. But seriously, I never liked... Now you've got me thinking. I never liked actually reading books on trains. I've never liked reading books in public anyway, because I don't like people judging what I'm reading. So, one of the reasons that as evil and terrible as Amazon is, one of the things I do love about Amazon and their lovely Kindles is the fact that I can actually read books now in public without people knowing what I'm reading, so I can read whatever I want. Especially when some of the times I did try and read books because I was going to university and I needed to try and get through my reading list with every minute spare I had. That included the commute. Some of the stuff I was doing in literature classes included the Marquis de Sade and and Lolita and other various books, because I did American literature and transgressive literature, and I picked some odd subjects. And yeah, when people worked out what you were reading, you got some odd looks. Australians can be very judgmental. So now we have a communication tool which allows us to talk to the ghost vigilantes, of which that girl there is one of them. So now we have a communication tool. Why is she so cute, damn? Yeah, she really is. You just kind of want to help her, just because you want the happy ending at the end. But now we've got to get to the chief's office, which is up there on the top. We're currently in the security room on the ground floor, and you can assume that things are going to start ramping up from here. But we're going to call an end to this stream right here. Now is a really good spot. We've got our next quest, and things do ramp up from here, so it'd be better to address those in the next stream. I think we'll continue to play this next week. I'm having fun with this one. Thank you very much for tuning into the stream as always. I know this was at a different time, but if anything, this seems to be like a better time to do it than the later night ones, so we might do this again next time. I am definitely looking at alternative schedules for the streaming just to try and optimize it so people that want to watch can tune in. But otherwise, it is the weekend. Have a great weekend, everybody. I will be back with another stream tomorrow. We're playing JRPGs, and from memory, I've got some more Atelier Theorists to work through, so you can go and come and see me play one of my favourite Atelier games, and therefore favourite JRPGs of all time. Otherwise, we've got a Sunday stream where we can play anything. And what I'm thinking of playing is Go, because one of the releases on the Switch this week was a Go game. that's as in the classic board game, and I'm considering playing that for a stream because I like Go, and I definitely want to promote that because it's a useful tool for learning how to play the game, and I think everybody should learn Go. But if you can't tune in, then totally fine, of course. Just have a great weekend, play lots of games, and we will catch you next week. Thanks as always for tuning in.